Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order for Monday, March 22nd, 2021. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Well, good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome. Happy Monday. Just a reminder, per Governor Baker's order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access this school committee meeting. Members of the public can access this meeting via live stream at youtube.com/DHSTV Media. In addition, the event will be rebroadcast on DCTV channels 9 and 18 on the following days: Wednesday and Thursday at 5 p.m., Friday at 6 a.m., Saturday at 8 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. The school committee reserves the right to implement additional or remote participation procedures and will notify the public of these procedures as soon as practicable. Ms. Genthner, could we have a roll call, please?
Chris Oliver.
Here.
Shannon Jenkins.
Here.
Kathleen Emerald.
Here.
John Nunes.
Yep.
Mary Waite. Here.
Thank you very much. As a reminder for those of us in attendance this evening, if you could please silence your cell phones or anything else, any other devices that you may have. Typically at this time, we allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to comment on any of tonight's agenda items. We got a few minutes before our public hearing of 6:35 for the FY22 school budget. So at this point in time, Ms. Genthner, do we have any public comment for tonight's meeting?
We have not received any.
Nothing. Okay, thank you. And as a reminder, anyone wishing to comment on any of tonight's agenda items can do so. They can email our recording secretary, Kathleen Genthner, at dartmouthschools.org. And we'll circulate at the back of the tail end of the meeting, and we'll see if anyone would like to respond to anything that we have on tonight's agenda. With that, I'll take the approval of the regular session minutes of March 8th, 2021.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
And a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Jenkins. On the motion, any further discussion? Chair hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention.
That's right, yeah,
Thank you. Time is 6:34. We'll turn it over to our student rep who's with us this evening, and I know your last name is Miss Mella Morgan. Thank you.
Yes.
So welcome, Morgan.
Hi.
Good to have you with us here this afternoon or this evening. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on at Dartmouth High School.
Hi, my name is Morgan Mello. I'm a sophomore here at Dartmouth High. I participate in a lot of extracurriculars and sports every single season here. I'm very involved. I like to be active in my school community. So I'm happy to report with the improving weather over the past few days in spring just passed, and it's starting up right now. Students' physical and mental health has been slowly improving over time, which I'm sure you're all very concerned about, especially with the start of the 2021 campaign for the high school seniors this year. So unfortunately, these seniors have been unable to get a lot of their activities, which I know we've been struggling to get and plan for them just to start. And so to celebrate the start and the end of their last year, their senior year, Dartmouth's Finest, which is actually a rehearsal going on right now, will kick off the start for the 21 for 21 campaign on Friday, April 9th at 7:30, which you can stream on DCTV. Our football team record still stands at 1-1 as the team prepares to travel to Durfee on Saturday. Despite these challenging times, our team perseveres and continues to demonstrate our Dartmouth pride. Along with our school sports, Dartmouth Winter Track, which I'm happily a member of, we start with a virtual meet coming up on Thursday, actually. So because meets are unable to be held in person, we all will be competing virtually and posting our own times. The coaches look forward to that. It'll be an interesting change. Going into more competition, we also had our state DECA competition, which I'm also thankfully to be a part of. 16 students and I also competed at states this year. It was online, involved written tests and 2 role plays, taking 3 hours for each video and an hour and a half for the test. So after a lot of hard work and time put into these competitions, I'm happy to report that 4 or 5 of us are going on to internationals. So along with other subcommittees and committees and just clubs at our school, our student council has started a subcommittee focusing on abolishing parking passes, which looks forward to working with the school board committee, along with our political science club, which is hoping to pass a COVID relief bill at federal legislation level to help low-income families. And our debate team also just participated in a spring fling tournament, which Evan Garcia, my other student council rep, and I are a part of. Both of us will be advancing to states this year. So we are also proud to announce that our esports team is newly created this year, but now has 4 official competition squads. The 5-team member League of Legends has risen to 13th place out of 14 teams in our division, with many more matches left in the season. And the 3-member State Rocket League squad is now ranked 6th overall out of 31 teams. We have also just added a 3-person local Rocket League team and a 3-person Super Smash Bros. Teams, both of which will be competing this week. A nice start to an interesting and a new team. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Well, it sure sounds like there's a lot happening at Dartmouth High, and it sounds great, all the wonderful things that you're doing. Do any of my fellow colleagues have any comments or questions for
Thank you for the
Morgan?
update.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you. It's great to see you here.
Yeah.
Nice to
Thank-
see you too.
Yeah, well, we welcome you and hope to see you again soon.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
time.
Morgan.
Thank you,
Take care,
Morgan.
Okay, the time is now 6:39. I'd like to call the public hearing to order. Do we need a motion?
Make a motion that we open a public hearing for the FY22 school budget.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mrs. Amaral to open the FY22 public hearing on our school budget. Any other discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The public hearing is open, and once again, I'll turn it over to, typically, this is when we'd have some audience members here, and they would be sharing their thoughts or concerns or questions regarding the FY22 budget. I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was published, notice was given in the Standard Times on the March 15th, 2021 edition, and it was also asked in that article or that posting that anyone wishing to ask any questions or anything in regards to the FY22 budget hearing, that they could send that to Kathleen, Ms. Genther. And do we have anything in regards to public comment on the budget hearing?
I have not received any comments.
You have not received any comments to date. Thank you very much. I don't know what the committee's pleasure is at this point. Do we open and close it, or is there anything else at this point?
No, because we're going to talk about it later under old business, so
Correct.
that's fine. So Chairman, I'll make a motion, since there is no public comment. I'll tell you what, how about if I make if we, not close, but if we adjourn it to the end of the meeting in case somebody, after we have our budget discussion, somebody happens to send something.
I'm fine with that. Does
Yeah.
anyone else have any issues?
So I'll make a motion that we adjourn our public hearing on the FY22 budget until the end of our meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. A motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mrs. Waite to adjourn our public budget hearing, coming back to it at the end of our regular meeting. Any other comments or questions? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, we have a resolution 21-04. I assume regular and late transportation contract. Mr. Kiley, I would assume?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. So we had our bid opening for our regular and late transportation contract. And I will read, for the record, resolution number 21-04, which is a resolution awarding a contract for regular and late transportation services. Whereas bid invitations for regular and late transportation services, K through 12, were duly advertised and the bid proposals received were opened at 11 a.m. on March 10th, 2021. And whereas the bid for the only responding bidder, Trembley's Bus Company LLC, was reviewed and deemed to have met the published specifications, therefore be it resolved that a contract for regular and late transportation services, K through 12, be awarded to Trembley's Bus Company LLC, 284 Myrtle Street, New Bedford, Mass., based on Dartmouth Public Schools specifications dated February 22nd, 2021, for the period of July 1st, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022. The contract offered is for an initial period of 1 year, beginning July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, with 2 additional 1-year options to be exercised at the sole discretion of the school committee for a maximum end date of June 30th, 2024, in the amount of $378.96 per route per day.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by, was that
I
you,
said second.
Mrs. Amaral, or Mrs. Waite? Mrs. Waite, on the motion, I do have some discussion. Just a couple of quick questions for you, Mr. Kiley. Where you say a responding bidder, was that the only bidder or the only responsible bidder?
It was the only bid,
The only bid.
the only bid.
Okay. And typically, I know for those people watching at home and for some of our new school committee members, that typically we enter into, in the past, been past practice, you typically go with 3-year transportation contracts. Could you just explain a little bit what was the reasoning behind looking at just the 1 year this year?
Yeah, so this is a 1 year with 2 1-year options, and the options are at our discretion, so the flexibility is really all on our side. To be honest, I think it's highly likely that we would utilize all 3 years, but given there's so much change in the world, it's nice to have the option available to us in case something presents itself that we're not anticipating at the moment.
Okay.
I can talk a little bit about the price if.
Well, I was just curious as what the percentage is over the previous contract.
So our previous contract was for 3 years, and it was level priced for those 3 years, similar to this would be if we exercise the options. So we always expect that in that first year of the new contract, we will sort of have to get closer to current market value. For the regular bus portion of this, it's 8.5% increase over the previous contract.
Okay.
And that's the bulk of the cost. Some of the other areas of the cost in terms of how much it costs for us to have a monitor on the bus and how much it costs to have late buses, were a bit of an issue in this, in that there's quite a driver shortage and staff shortage in that business, and I think that cost us some money. The good news is overall, this is within the parameters of what I budgeted in the FY22 budget. So, I think that it would be a good idea for us to exercise this. There's a lot of uncertainty in the transportation market right now, and I feel this is a favorable option for us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Kiley. Dr. Jenkins?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kiley, I remember last time we did this, you told us that it was increasingly common that school districts are only getting one bid. And that concerns me in a sort of historical sense. Past history in Dartmouth, I think there were some, ideas that bids were written so that only one company would be qualified to actually bid as sort of an insider backroom deals. And I'm not suggesting that's what's happening here. I know that it's not. I want to be clear about that. But it creates sometimes bad appearances. And it's good that it's good in the sense of appearances that it's happening to everyone. But I also don't wonder if this is something that, I don't know, is the state looking into this? It's problematic for districts, right? When there's no competition for bus contracts. I'm a pretty lefty person, but capitalism and market-based competition is good for consumers. So I'm just sort of wondering whether, budget officers, superintendents, the state, anyone is sort of looking into what's going on here to see if schools can have some remedies around, and districts around this.
I can say that the state is very well aware that this is an issue. It's a hard one to remedy. There have been several summits of school business officials talking about this. There were, in the last decade, there's been several bankruptcies in these companies. It's a difficult business, and when that has occurred, it has been disastrous. In one case, there was a bankruptcy where the school district didn't know until the kids weren't picked up that morning. And the doors were locked and the phones were off and it was over. And never, so we do, we protect against that type of thing. We have a performance bond and not to say there wouldn't be issues if that occurred, it would be. But those businesses have really taken a hit in this economic crisis. They've not transported kids and as a result not been paid a portion of their, of their contracts. And I don't know. I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. I really don't.
And this is in no ways to say we're dissatisfied with Tremblay's or not. It just, sometimes it can create bad appearances when there's like the fix is in. And I know that's not the case here, and so I just want to sort of talk about, this is a fairly written bid, and this is just sort of what's going on right now. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Not specific to this resolution, but just in terms of I'm not like, my children haven't been regular bus users. I've been the driver, the parent pickup person until recently, when my son does utilize transportation for an out-of-district placement. In awarding contracts historically, like when we've had other bids that we've secured contract with, has the special ed transportation also sort of aligned with that bus company? Do they all sort of fulfill that, or have you consistently utilized because I know there are other vendors as well for that, but
Right. We've kept those bids separate. They're really, two separate fleets, and I think it makes sense to do that. When we have had, during my tenure, one other vendor, provide transportation services, they did not also provide the special ed transportation service for that, but, yeah.
that's it.
Anything else? Any other comments, questions?
just-
Mr. News?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Jenkins said type of deal, I mean, there's 4 bus companies in this area that are, doing business with all the different communities, here to Swansea, Rehoboth, that type of deal, out probably into Rochester, Mattapoisett, Marion type of deal. And to, for somebody else to go out and to try to bid on this contract, I think would require them to go out, find the drivers, find the buses, it's a big capital,
Sure.
in this day and age is a big capital thing. We have had, in my tenure, the time when we would get 3 bids type of deal, and, you give it to the lowest responsible bidder, and, go at it that year. And one year we did that, and the committee had to pull the bid at the end of the first year because the company just couldn't handle the bid, couldn't handle what we needed type of deal. We had issues almost from day one. So, Tremblay's, we've got Tremblay's, and they do a good job as far as I can see and understand, and I'm happy with the way this has gone.
Okay, no, thank you.
If I could just add, as a frame of reference, and the competition, I agree. It would be nice to have competition and be sure we're getting a good price. I looked at about 25 other contracts right now for next year that are currently in existence or have just come up and are in a similar situation where they're close to awarding a contract. We're about 2% under the average of those contracts, so almost dead on with the average of those contracts. So, it's about what the market seems to bear at the moment.
Right. Yeah, just the competition piece. I agree. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you.
So the original motion was by Mr. Nunes, right?
Yeah.
A second by Mrs. Waite. Any other further discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries, passing resolution number 21-04.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Mr. Kiley, on that.
Thank you.
Next up, presentations. I'm going to turn it over to our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Bonnie Gifford, to introduce a spotlight on the Dartmouth Middle School.
Thank you very much, and once again, we're delighted to have Mr. Doan here. Nobody with him tonight, but I'm sure he'll...
Flying solo.
That's right, he's flying solo, I like that. And to present what's going on at the middle school this year.
Thank you for having me here this evening. So just to share a few highlights with you throughout the course of this very interesting year. As you probably are all well aware of, is we are one-to-one, grades 6 through 8, which has been extremely beneficial, specifically due to initially the remote and then transitioning into the hybrid. And then starting today, we are live streaming with the cohort students that are home. We were fortunate enough to acquire, and I think Mr. Galashaw, Mr. Kiley, and Dr. Gifford for just providing some additional funding so that we could acquire some additional technology. As you're aware of, our teachers move, our students remain in their room. So when teachers are moving, some of our classrooms at the time, their technology platform was different. So being able to acquire additional technology has enabled our teachers, when they move from class to class, to fully support the students, and specifically from a live streaming perspective, in which we began today. But again, it's been essential, it's been very beneficial. The students have adapted very well. And again, it's been very fluid, and our teachers, I feel, with the variety of workshops that they've been involved in over the past few years, has enabled them to transition as well. With that being said, the technology in itself, we have adapted, and we have been able to utilize a variety of different platforms to support our instructional practices. GoGuardian happens to be one of those. Again, it's a homeschool connection software. Teachers are able to communicate with students. Students can communicate as well. It's been very effective, where teachers really can monitor the students' progress, provide feedback, immediate feedback. And so it's been extremely essential for that. And we all know that students work at a different pace. So again, teachers have been able to kind of support their needs. And it's something we've been utilizing. We introduced it last year, but this year especially, we found how important this platform has been for us. Next, as you all know, a Google Meet breakout rooms. Breakout rooms is something that we've really utilized this year. So when we talk about small group instruction, collaborative learning, teachers can work with their entire classroom, either whether it's virtual or within the classroom. But if there's specific students that may have specific needs, if there's some collaborative activities that they've introduced, the teachers can create breakout rooms. Even some of our students, we've been learning to do that as well, where students can work together and utilize this means of instruction. So it's been very beneficial, and again, I think our teachers were fairly prepared for it prior to this year. They've been familiar with it. And for those who had a little bit of learning curve and maybe the comfort level wasn't quite there, they came to the realization that this was something that they needed to include in their instructional practices, and it really has paid off. And next up, another example is our Google Jamboard. And again, that's just, it's kind of like a whiteboard. And it's been, we gave all our students a package when they joined us. in the early fall. And one of the things I wanted all the students to have were those whiteboards. So when teachers were teaching remotely, or we became kind of, our cohorts were arriving and back and forth, it was important that the students could raise their whiteboard and teachers could visually see whether they got the correct answer or not. And then the Google Jamboard just allowed us, the students, not to have that. I mean, they can utilize Jamboard in which they can show their work, and teachers as well can provide their students with visuals. And so that's another tool that we've been using. We can add to our toolbox. And teachers really have adapted well, and teachers have worked really well together in collaborating. As we know, some have more of a comfort level than others with technology. I'd be lying to you if I said I put this all together this evening. I did not. But again, our teachers have really worked together, and those who do have the strengths have been more than willing to share with other staff members. And right now I can say that everybody's on board with a variety of different instructional practices that we're utilizing to further support instruction. Next, something that the middle school is dear to our heart is PBS and RARE. RARE was something, an initiative that we had in place prior to PBIS, and that's respect, accountability, responsibility, esteem. And we all know that this year has been very challenging, and we've all been really worried about the students and their social emotional well-being, et cetera. But we felt it was important to best our ability to continue with PBIS and RARE and just kind of be mindful of the importance of the structure and framework. So when we look at respect, our students created this bulletin board, and everybody was given a letter R, and on that they were able to identify how they perceive respect, how they can convey that, share that, what they feel that represents. Our next bulletin board is accountability, and again, same thing. Each child was given an A, and on that piece of paper, they identified how they viewed accountability and some of the things that they could do to, further support that. And then we have responsibility, and we have esteem. So again, it's a nice reminder for the students as well as staff. We continue with our PBS students as well as staff of the month, and that's extremely important. We have our rare postcards, and we also have a little bit of celebrations when students earn a particular award. They can come down to guidance, and we have some treats for them, et cetera. So again, through the course of the year, just really trying to encourage. I just want to convey, we also have a bulletin with 4 adults there, 4 staff members, and I just wanted to share, like Mrs. Tulson, we had a staff member that had taken a lengthy period of time, COVID-related, and she more than willing stepped up to the plate and went from the ELA lab to 8th grade ELA, and no questions asked. And so that's been kind of the mentality of our staff as well as students, but a lot of the staff members here just really stepped it up and filled in positions to just support the colleagues that were out, and that's been really positive and significant, and I think set a great example for our overall staff at large. This, as you're well aware of, is our online academic learning center. I wish this was around when I was a student, because this is, we have 24 staff members representing each grade level and each course subject for an hour and a half on Tuesdays and an hour and a half on Thursdays. I keep continually reminding students via the morning announcements as well as parents that please take advantage of this. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity if you're a 6th grade student and you need a little bit of support in ELA. You can, connect with an ELA teacher in 6th grade. We have 24 teachers, as I've indicated, and we have approximately 338 students who have taken advantage of this. Would I like that we have more? Sure. But 338 is a significant amount, and again, those are students who have taken advantage of this support, and it's been extremely beneficial. As you're well aware of, when we had our traditional after-school program, we would have the homework club. Mm-hmm. And that was supported by 6 staff members. But again, this right now is 24 staff members and grade levels and content areas, so it's been very beneficial. Just to add some of the community service, it's been kind of a little bit challenging, but I take a lot of pride in what our staff members and students have done over the years. So again, and I'm hitting the button, there we go. And again, the Neatest Family Program, this was a little bit challenged this year. Usually we have parents coming or families in need coming, and we provide them with baskets and a gift card. We had to adapt this year, so we just provided all those families with $75 gift cards. We did some activities, some fundraising activities internally to be able to support that financially. We collaborate with the town hall again. We've done that over the past few years where they've identified families, and so we've worked with them to support families throughout the holiday season. We collected over 200 items. We talk about clothing, gloves, hat and sock strips, and so again, a lot of students as well as staff contributed, and we provided that to our local shelters this year. Again, toilet donation initiative. So again, the Harbor House in New Bedford, we provided them with toothbrushes, toothpaste, etc. So items, and it's amazing how the students really, take the leadership role and want to participate and want to give back. It becomes very contagious. They're well aware of the needs, and it's important. I feel that we continue to promote that service type piece. And with that being said, every year, our guidance counselors stay with their students, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then they rotate back through again. So every year I ask our 8th grade guidance counselor to identify a particular student that we could identify as Project 351 Ambassador. That was a project that was started in 2011 by then Governor Deval Patrick as a way to commemorate Dr. Martin Luther King, and by focusing on youth leadership, statewide unity, and community services. So each year our 8th grade teacher, having been with the student for 2.5 years, or that class, has a pretty good understanding, and so they identify. So this year, and there was an article, I don't know if anybody had seen it, in the Dartmouth Weekly, but we had Audrey Kircher and, again, Mrs. Allison Cato Galligan had nominated her, and even with the pandemic, she has been actively connecting visually with the ambassadors from the other schools within the state. And so they talk a lot about, the type of things that Dr. Martin Luther King stood for, and ways in which they could do collectively and individually to support those traits. And so Audrey has always done a terrific job connecting with students, students that maybe are struggling a little bit, students who may be sitting alone in the caf. She'll connect with them, reach out, and she's in the process now of kind of developing 4 specific activities that would support these particular traits. And so, just figured I'd share that with you, that she is the ambassador from the middle school this year. And that's a wonderful program that has been in place for some time, and really not only recognizes students from different districts, but also just keeps in mind the importance of these particular characteristics and traits. So, with that being said, just in conclusion, I can't say enough for my staff. I'll speak on behalf of my staff because they're my staff. I can't really speak on behalf of other schools, but their ability this year just to really adapt, to go from remote to transition to the hybrid, and then from the hybrid on the off days to even take it a step further and connect with those students maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. And now starting today to really connect with them, live streaming. They're willing to support each other, identify different ways that they can best connect and support students. And then with that being said, I just can't say enough great things about our students. I mean, it's been extremely challenging for them, and they have adapted. They've been very respectful. We have a lot of structure in place, travel patterns and just the way you approach things, and, having materials in the classroom where students would just get up and be able to get colored pencils and this and that. I mean, the systems that have in place, and they've done a terrific job. And even the utilization of technology, how they've been able to, take advantage of that. So it's been a real plus. And the community at large. The community at large has been extremely supportive as well. So it's been a team effort all around. And as a building principal, I really can't say enough things about all that they've done and what they've tried to accomplish. And again, just continue. Our mantra this year, the only expectation that I've really asked of staff is just be kind. Be kind to each other, and be kind to students, be kind to parents, and if you can just be kind, we're going to make it through the year. And that's been our number one. objective expectation. Yes, the teaching's going on, but just be mindful of the needs of staff, students, and parents. And so, that's where we are. So I told her I'd keep it within a certain time frame. If you have any questions, be more than welcome to.
You're right on time there. Thank you, Mr. Doan, for your presentation. I can start over here. Dr. Jenkins?
Thank you, Mr. Doan. I appreciate your presentation, and I also want to just sort of echo your thanks to all your teachers and staff. I think it's been a hard year for teachers. It's been a hard year for everyone, but I think sometimes people don't really know how much work that they've put in to make these changes, and so they have our gratitude. I just have a couple questions for you. One, could you maybe talk about the 8th graders usually do like a moving up day where they go to the high school, which I assume we're not going to be able to do?
I haven't had a conversation with Mr. Tebow, the high school principal, but I will say this. We was talking about our orientation for the incoming 6th graders, and again, we can't invite the elementary students in the building.
Right.
And so we felt that the virtual program that we put in place last year was to the best of our ability. It's not like the real thing being in person, but we had all of the teachers introduce themselves, kind of a real welcoming message. We gave a virtual tour of the building, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the direction we'll go. I am planning, with the support of the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, is taking a look at graduation this year and maybe holding it 2 evenings where we have cohort A, hopefully weather permitting in the stadium. If not, we utilize the high school, and then, tickets for family members, and then we have it the next night for cohort B. That way we kind of provide them at least with an opportunity to kind of experience that. I know last year we had a virtual ceremony, but that's my goal and plan for this year.
Great.
So that's kind of, but the grade 8 party, I feel terrible, but it's a wonderful evening, but that's dancing and food, and it's just very unfortunate, but, I can't foresee that taking place. But the graduation, I feel it's important, and we're going to do what we can to make sure that hopefully we can make that happen.
Great. And then my second question is, I know people are ready to kill me looking forward to next year, but we got a plan for next year. I know, I'm really concerned about, social emotional needs, learning loss, making all that up. And I know the middle school has always done a great job with I think you have like 2 after-school homework days that you've done.
Yes.
Are you going to maybe try to expand that and keep some more virtual after-school hours, or might we look at, again, some more in-person after-school? I just want to make sure that we're giving kids and we have the supports in place to do everyone's doing their best, but it's not the same as being in person 5 days a week. So what are our plans for sort of maybe some after-school supplementation next year? How are we going to sort of beef that up from what we normally offer?
Well, one thing we've learned is I don't think I know. The Online Learning Center has been really important, and I think even as we move forward, we're going to maintain a certain component of that, because we do have children that need to go home. Sometimes they have to wait for the younger brother and sister to get off from the elementary school. There's a variety of things where they just can't remain at school. So my hope and intent is to maintain this, again, not with 24 teachers, because there is a cost with that, but that will be included in part of our after-school programming.
Okay.
So that, along with the homework club, and we talk about after-school, really, we have a wide variety of activities, but again, at the end of the day, it's about students having the ability to interact outside of the academic setting, developing relationship skills, interactive skills. So my hope is that we get it off and running, but if we have to adapt and make some adjustments more from a virtual perspective, we'll do that.
Okay.
But the online piece, that's something I think is extremely important. If we can maintain that,
Okay.
we will.
Great. Thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Amaral?
Yeah, really, I appreciate the presentation as well, and all of the highlights as to how everyone is just kind of working together, doing their best with kindness and compassion all the way. And you noted this in your presentation, but having all of that work that you had done with the Highlander Institute and how your staff had really owned those different ways of students kind of interacting in an online way prior to the pandemic really lent itself to some some, a little bit of ease for some of your staff, but again.
We had no idea at the time, but it did pay off.
Yeah. I don't know, it might be, there might have been some evening out as to everyone in the district with the learning curve, all the levels, but I'm sure that really was, something that was beneficial. The online learning center, that's wonderful. 24 staff doing that 2 times a week. That is like fantastic. Is that support after school available to any of the students that are in TECA? Do they participate? Are they welcome to, or have they actually taken anybody up on any asking those questions?
What we've done for the TECA students is our guidance counselors, from a grade level perspective, they're in constant communication with them. TECA's a little bit different from a curriculum perspective. So it's not kind of fully aligned to what we're doing. So it's a little bit challenging in essence of connecting with the online learning. So teachers have to adapt as well. But we have book clubs that we're running with some of our TECA students. Kind of socialization groups where they can visually connect with other students. So that's something that's been ongoing.
Great.
And again, it's been a bit of a challenge, but initially, when we got, as you all know, but I think as the year progressed, I think TECA itself realized that they had to make some changes because they were inundated with a lot of students who wanted to take advantage of that, or parents who felt that was best at the time due to the pandemic. And so I think, our second semester kind of began January 25th. So again, that constant communication of just kind of monitoring students, are they having success? Are they completing work? And discussing with parents and seeing what we can do, like I said, i.e. socialization groups, things of that nature, so.
Yeah, thank you.
And I appreciate that my guidance staff has done a terrific job. We
absolutely.
Approximately 50 students, maybe. But they've done a nice job just kind of monitoring and checking in.
Yeah, I echo that to your staff, your guidance counselors, for really taking it upon themselves to help in that way, and for the district it was all about sort of shifting and balancing on our feet and trying to figure things out as we went. We didn't really probably expect those challenges at the beginning, but.
And it's TECA's, for some students, you're not with a teacher every day online. It's a little bit every other.
Yeah, it's
so
different. It's a whole other different, yeah. It was
It's
an
not
option.
perfect,
It was,
but,
right.
at least we needed to provide something, and
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
best.
So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Emerald. Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Doan, for a fantastic presentation. And I'm glad the slides went different because mine didn't print out too well, but thank you for that. Just a couple of quick questions. On that after-school academic support center, Tuesdays and Thursdays, if somebody's in the cohort that's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, are they still able to jump in on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Or
Yes.
do they have to wait till the following when it's
no.
their week in school?
No.
It's open to anyone?
Open to anyone, yes.
Beautiful. Okay. And again, just to echo my colleagues, my thanks to everyone for what they've done this year. It's, much appreciated, difficult times, and, everyone stepped up to the plate, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And again,
Administration down.
we appreciate your support as well.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. Mrs. Waite?
Yes, again, I'll just second what my colleagues have said as well. I'm the only one here who has a middle schooler this time around, and he comes off, every day that he's there, he's really comes home happy and thrilled and loves being in school, and, we've had great feedback from his teachers and communication with his teachers. It's been really, given the circumstances, a good year for him. I wouldn't even say like great, but I hate to say that when they're walking around in masks and, and everything. I am also, like Ms. Amaral, I am driving my son to school, and we're doing pickups. So I don't want to get break too much into Dr. Gifford's, conversation that she's going to have about expanding learning. But I am kind of curious to see, when we have so many more parents coming and doing drop-offs and pickups, how that's going to. There are a lot of cars there now, and you guys
Yes.
are doing a wonderful job coming out and greeting, parents and everything. I'm just curious how, when we have all of the students back, and again, in addition to transportation, I know you're still in the planning stages, but I'm curious to hear how everything's going to play out, with room size and lunches and everything else. So I don't know, again, if Dr. Gifford, if you're planning to talk about that, or if
No,
Mr. Doan can speak to that.
Actually, I talked to Mr. Doan today, and we're going to open it up to those questions after his presentation, because we knew you'd have them, so.
Okay.
He's here, so
Okay.
we have been doing a lot of planning, so.
Okay.
He can talk a little bit about what's
Regards
been
to
going on.
drop off and pick up, I'll be in my office with my door closed and the blinds down.
Hiding.
I will be thinking about the parents that's done, no, that's,
I'll still be waving, just to make you feel good.
so I guess, right? I'll
Yeah,
just kind of
please,
share.
please.
Initially, when we planned on connecting with students on their off day, the Commissioner of Education and Governor did not advise us at the time that April 28th was going to be full reopening. So with that being said, when we found out, we thought, well, do we remain kind of as is, where teachers are connecting with students on their off day, maybe just an hour or two, and not do the fully live streaming? But then the more I thought about this, and we kind of collectively as a group kind of looked at everything, we came to the understanding, especially looking at room sizes, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll deal with the academic piece, and then we'll get into the logistics of parking. So we took a look and we said, okay, if we're talking about 3 feet apart, the maximum amount of kids in the majority of our classrooms is going to be 15. So therefore, many of the classes have 20, 21 students. So in 7th grade, for example, I have 71 students currently right now that I have to find another place for. And that's just the reality of it. So that will be cafeteria A. We have approximately 300 and some 8th graders. That leaves me with 100 and some students that I have to find a home for, because our rooms of square footage are pretty much the same. So that will be the gymnasium. So that's where that live streaming comes into play, that we're currently doing now, where teachers, it's kind of going to be like a pilot program. So I looked at the 6th grade, myself and a few other staff members, and the enrollment's a little bit low of the 7th and 8th. And boy, did I really want the 6th graders, just because of their age, is just to be in their academic class. So years ago, as you know, we had purchased many tables with the support of the district, because we wanted to create kind of just an environment of collaboration and the ability to kind of situate tables and students will work together, because the jungle gyms and the desks didn't necessarily help with that, so to speak. So now I'm looking at these tables and say, well, how do I deal with this 6 feet piece that we had initially, right? So we had to kind of put desks in there. So now the 6th grade has predominantly, we're situating them with desks, many have them, and then what we've done is we've taken plexiglass, we met with a vendor, and we're going to place that in the 6th grade so that our students can remain in their academics. Now, with that being said, then I thought, well, if I'm a parent, do I want my child, let's say, in the gym every day for live streaming? The answer to that would probably be, no, I would not. So then we said, well, we got to create some type of rotation. So an 8th grader will be in the gym one day and return the academics the next day. This is the reality of it. And then I thought, not only I, but others, we thought, well, listen, we have students that have specific learning needs and physical needs and emotional needs. So then we determined those students will remain in their academic classes. And that's not in any way to segregate or to identify, but
To do it.
we need to do that.
Take care of them.
Yeah.
But we are still going to create a rotation. So I've shared this with staff members, but not as a whole with the faculty, because we're still kind of in those infant stages. But the teams themselves, specifically in 7th, 8th grade, they'll identify a rotation that is equitable. And again, when they're in the classroom, they will live stream. So now, from March 22nd up to April 28th, all the students, when they're home on their off day, are going to they have a live streaming schedule. That schedule will remain as is. So they'll get their 4 academics, but they're going to get them in an alternative space. But it will be with their teacher. It will be with their teacher. Then I looked at special areas. I have almost 80 gym students in a class. I need the gym for the overflow. So met with Mr. Kiley and said, we got to get a tent on rain days. And And then the band, same situation, 50 to 60 plus students, chorus. If I create, I don't have space within the building to support them. So the weather hopefully will be sunny every day until the end of the year. But if not, we'll have some shelter outside. I've tried to speak with the superintendent, Mr. Colley, about maybe renting those as wedding venues on the weekends, make a little extra money, but that is the game plan. Strings itself, and I met with Heather and Michael this morning, and we're able to utilize the auditorium as their facility because they're there in the morning and they're there in the afternoon. So that's kind of where we are academically. But then I get into special areas, and then I'm looking at art. One class is 21, and the only space is 15 if we go 3 feet without plexiglass. And so I said, boy, it'd make our life a lot easier because I need staff to supervise the overflow. How do I do that? So, and I don't have additional space for the overflow and such, so we are right now in the process of plexiglassing on tables and areas to provide an environment in which the special area students can remain. Which is really important too, because when you're a student in an academic class, the same class all day, the opportunity to get out and get into another classroom and interact with other students is extremely important. So to maintain special areas the way they are was beneficial in a variety of different ways. And moving forward, we're in the process of doing that. There's a lot of logistical stuff going on right now, even from a physical plant perspective. And then it leads us to lunch. Because, as you know, 3 feet, but then when we get to lunch, it's 6 feet. So I have 15 in a room. Well, all 15 cannot eat in the room now. I was going to do a half and half eat, and then the other, put the mask on, half eat, but that is not part of the guidelines. So, it's been busy the past few weeks. So what we're doing there is the teachers are going to create another rotation. And currently right now we have a time frame within our day which is lunch and academic support. So we'll maintain that time frame, but then we're going to utilize the auditorium. Some students will be going to the auditorium to have their lunch. The sixth graders who we're able to keep them in their academic classes, they're going to have to, some of them are going to have to go elsewhere for lunch. So moving bodies, shifting, looking at places where we can support students, and then the challenge of where do I find the supervision? So I took a look at the schedule, and we have curriculum planning time, common planning time, wonderful, wonderful things that enable teachers to really get together and support one another and just kind of do a lot of great work. I've removed those April 28th. The only thing that we've kept was block meetings, which really is about just the opportunity for teachers to speak with guidance, parents interacting as well. Those time frames in which teachers were working together in a variety of capacities, now I've created a whole nother schedule where they're going to be in the gym, 3 or 4 adults, while those students in the gym will be live streaming. Cafeteria A, while those students are live streaming. We've created supervision for our lunches because it's not only going to be cafeteria A, cafeteria B, the gym, it's also going to be the auditorium. So, I mean, we're a school of almost 1,000. I have colleagues in the state that have class sizes of maybe 14 and 15. Other schools we know have class sizes of 28. We're kind of in the mid-range, but we're just above that number piece where we cannot fully support lunch, academics, things of that nature in a particular classroom. I was out in the parking lot today, as we always are, and I was having the same thoughts. Because cohort A is a very busy day after school. I don't know why, it's just more parents that are dropping off, picking up. Cohort B is a little light, and then I'm thinking, wow, when we combine the both, and I know for a fact, it's been a difficult year for parents, challenging, a lot of concerns and worries, so a lot of them chose to bring their children and pick them up, for concern about being on the bus. Will those parents start to utilize the bus? I don't think so. I don't know. If I had to guess, probably not. So
I don't think so.
I'm reaching out to the police department because we know Slocum is very, very busy. We're utilizing part of Slocum now just to park cars. Some parents are wrapped around the corner on Hawthorne Street. And so just to try to get some assistance, specifically the first 3 days, April 28th, 29th, and the 30th, just so that they can help kind of move that traffic on Slocum Road. And then we have an opportunity just to kind of really visualize stuff. I mean, I may find that I have to make some adjustments where I may say, okay, even though we're all back in school, let's visualize that we're still in cohorts. So maybe cohort A, parents are coming at a particular time, and cohort B parents come. Well, I hate to do that, but it's something maybe we'll have to think about. So that's something that is a concern of mine. I don't have, it's almost like, all right, let's kind of have some plans in place, but yet when it does happen, then we'll have to just evaluate and reevaluate and just hope everybody's really patient. As I've advised parents over the years, it's always good to come a little bit later, because if you come a little bit later, nobody's there.
I always aim to be the last car through, right? That way I would.
We will have parents there, we will have parents there a half an hour before.
You do.
And,
I have no doubt.
I'm very strategic, too.
yeah, and I respect that. They want to get a good place, and some of them, especially grandparents, are so worried about their grandchildren, and it's really nice to see. But they feel the need wherever the location, they need to be, their car needs to be in that spot. So when I kindly ask them to move up a little bit, we have a nice conversation for a little while. And I try to rationalize as to why we should move, but my granddaughter knows that I'm always here. So, yeah, and that's why we have the
Yeah.
staff we do out front.
Yeah, they're
because
great.
it's just extremely important just to kind of communicate and, just kind of help people kind of navigate that process, et cetera. But that's kind of where we are. Again, we're in the, we've kind of put a plan in place that I'm comfortable with. It's now a matter of just kind of taking a look at logistics, making sure that structurally we're, from a physical plant perspective, we're doing what we need to do to make sure that there's 3 feet. But I won't lie to you, it's been a challenge. So we have a meeting with staff this coming Monday, and then on the release time day, the 7th, is totally going to be dedicated to staff working with their teams to develop really a rotation and a kind of a comfort level to, to prepare for when the students come. Right now, we have staggered times in which we'll say, okay, 6th graders can now report to special areas, and then 7th graders can report here. I have to tell you, and I think you're aware of it, that by our students remaining in their rooms, when we had a huge uptick with COVID, myself and Mr. Rossi were the close contact tracers. We were the ones that were running out. And what we looked at each other and we said, you know what? We've really, by having the students remain in that same setting for 4 classes, and we felt bad about it. If we didn't, I mean, the contact tracing would have just been enormous. And the amount of students that would have had to have quarantined and not be able to report to school would have been huge. So that has paid off really well. But again, logistically speaking, having both. Also, when we get to April 28th, it won't be A, B, B. It's going to be A, B, C, D, E, and F. You know, that initial original rotation. And the cohort A, that, that will change, except then when we have graduation, or if I have to do something logistically with parking, I can send that message out that, hey, if initially cohort A group do that. So that's where some of the adjustments have. As you know, Pass and Pals have been with us from day one. They've adapted really well. The 2 teachers have done a nice job. And the students have done a nice job maintaining kind of traffic patterns. But we'll still do that staggered in between classes. Not everybody's going to move at once because that's almost 1,000 kids out and about. So, we'll make an announcement, 6th grade roll, 7th and 8th. But that's kind of where we are. We'll maybe make some adjustments, but what I conveyed to you right now is pretty much what we need to do moving forward.
Can I?
Thank you, Mr. Doan. Anything else, Mr. Nunes?
I just,
Or Mrs. Waite?
that's a lot to unpack. You've been busy. There's been a lot on your plate. So, I mean, I guess my questions are a few, thinking about it, when you go back to students that are going to be in the auditorium who are live streaming, do you, at this point, consider that that will be an entire cohort that's live streaming while the others are in the class, or will it just be a select number of students from a class, so that you know, say, like, you think that you can accommodate 15, so you just have 6 that will be live streaming, or will it actually be split into the other cohort?
We won't use the auditorium.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Right. Well,
cafeteria.
let's look at gym, for example.
Okay,
I mean, I know the number sounds huge, and it is, but we'll have approximately 100 students in that gym.
right,
They'll all be on their desks. We'll keep them 6 feet apart, because that way we can just utilize those areas for lunch.
right,
Those students are going to follow the current, right now, live streaming synchronized schedule that they have.
okay,
And then we create this rotation. Student A was in the gym one day, the next day they'll go back to the classroom that they're with their homeroom teacher, and that's where they would remain that day. But all 100 students are going to follow. If they're in the McDonald block, 8th grade, it's a team of 4. Those that are in the gym have a schedule, and that schedule they will follow for academics via their computer Chromebook.
right,
They'll be able to leave to go to their special areas. Correct, you follow me?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's say after period 1, 8th grade has an academic, those students will live stream wherever they're located outside the classroom, and then period 2, if it's special areas, they'll leave the gym area, head to their special area, and then when it's academics again, they will report back. So the teachers have a specific schedule that they'll follow, and the students will know when they access. So they're following the same schedule as the students are following within the classroom when they're in for the academics. Hopefully I answered your question.
I think I was asking, like, how were those students, so will the one cohort be in the, say, cafeteria, and the other cohort be, I mean, they're both with this teacher, but will they be split according to their cohorts?
No,
Well,
we won't,
they're not, you're not, can I follow up on this? What you're
Yes.
saying is if you have 20 students and you can fit 15, you're not going to do 15, it's going to be a different 5 students in
Yeah,
the,
we're-
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So you won't
Thank you
be
for
every other
clarifying.
day, A,
Yes,
B
yes.
in the
Yeah,
cafeteria,
our
maybe like every 4 days,
We will
yeah?
no longer have cohorts.
Okay, so there'll be no, okay.
I'm sorry, there'll be no longer, we have no longer cohorts starting
you.
April 28th.
Okay,
What's going to happen, the teachers themselves within their teams will identify some type of internal rotation so that students, you know, we don't find one student that's in the gym every day.
right, okay.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
no, it's
I got a lot of things moving in my head right
I
now,
didn't,
so.
Yeah.
like, until she asked that question, I didn't even think to ask it, but that once you ask it, it became clear. like-
Once students, yeah, thank you, Dr. Once students enter April 28th, it's
Yeah.
not, we have one cohort, and it's the middle school cohort.
Right.
Right.
The only time I'll utilize cohorts is, let's say, i.e. graduation, where I need to divide, or if we have some logistical issues regarding pickup,
Okay.
things of that nature.
And I guess my only other question, and this might, you know, relate more to Mr. Kiley as well, is the tents. Have you been able to secure the tents at this point?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good.
Well, it was
Okay.
either a tent or a lot of umbrellas.
And raincoats.
That's right. Well, thank you very, very much. And, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit again, just hearing that your staff are losing their common planning time, that's huge. So it's, again, another testament to all the sacrifices your staff and everyone's putting into this year, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mrs. White. There's not much left to say. It's
I'm
regards to the
tired right now.
You've been up here, you've been in the hot seat for a while,
Yeah,
Mr. Doan.
thank you.
No, I'll just say a great presentation. I appreciate some of the information that you shared with the committee. I love the, the academic support after hours for 338 students. I was unaware of that. I think that's wonderful. And I liked, I just jotted down, it's very simple answers, but, or statements. When you said I asked my staff to be kind to students, be kind to the parents, we'll all get through this. So I thought that was just very thoughtful. I will say that I appreciate you taking the time, and my fellow committee members taking the time to ask a lot of the questions about what's Dartmouth Middle School going to look like on April 28th. And people don't realize, I know for a fact, a lot of town members and parents really don't realize what goes into trying to make the logistics around all of this possible. You said your mind's been spinning. Just to figure this out, figure out the logistics of moving kids around, moving students around, getting them utilizing the gym, putting in tents for PE, the auditorium. There's so many moving parts to this. And, you know, it's really impressive to see the amount of the dedication of your staff and your fellow, administrators at Dartmouth Middle School trying to make all this work for our kids. It's no easy task. I think what we had was working really well. But I understand that, we're trying to do the best we can. And of course, and just so everyone's aware, and especially everyone at home, the very simple reason why we're looking at putting students in the gymnasium is because based on the current recommendations from the CDC, we have to, our classrooms, a lot of our classrooms at Dartmouth Middle School, just at 3-foot distancing, we can't accommodate a full classroom. So that is why we're having to look to alternative spaces. That's the only reason why we're having to look for alternative spacing is because of the 3-foot distancing requirements that are in our classrooms. So I'll just say thank you. Thank you to you, Mr. Doan, and please pass along to your team as well as all your entire team at Dartmouth Middle School, the school committee's thanks and for their hard work and dedication to keep the education alive and well.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you. Dr. Jenkins?
I will also take this opportunity to be the broken record about my favorite thing, which is the fact that we don't have 21st century buildings to educate our students. Mr. Doan mentioned class size as being a key variable. When we got the report from the architects, one of the key things they noted in that report was that our class sizes are simply not up to 21st century learning standards for the amount of space we need in classrooms. And I remember, we can blame this all on me, because I remember sitting in that meeting and thinking, like, why do we need more space? All we need are some desks and whatever. And lo and behold, the fact that our classrooms themselves are undersized against sort of what best practices are for physical spaces in classroom these days means that we're in this position. So we've been a little penny wise and pound foolish here in Dartmouth, right? I mean, it's great that we're reusing a very, very, very old. Mr. Nunes could probably tell us how old that building is. I don't even
high
know.
school?
That was the high school,
The middle
yeah.
school is what, 1958, 1959?
It's old. It's old, and that's another reason why. I mean, the architects highlighted that in the report talking about our buildings. Our older building classroom sizes are not big enough according to best practices. I'm grateful for what you're doing with what you have. But I suspect in other communities, they might have more flexibility because they have newer and better buildings that are better equipped to deal with our needs for learning. And again, this is something that this community has to address. We have to address it. Our buildings are no longer adequate to meet the needs of our students.
Well,
That's not on you. That's just my soapbox, my broken record soapbox. So
just on a
Mr.
side note, Dr. Jenkins and Dr. Gifford and Mr. Kylie, I really hope that once COVID's over and we're back to some kind of normalcy next year, that we can take up facilities. I think that's an important topic. Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Darren, great job. It's almost like you've thought just about everything, but I'm just sitting here and I'm going to kind of get a little bit on, not Shannon's soapbox, but my own soapbox, and to the parents and the community out there, as we move forward with this and, April 28th comes along, I think 3 key words are going to have to be patience, changes, and fluidity. Patience as we go into this, be aware that there could be some changes just because of everything that happens. And the key thing is everyone, I think, has to be very fluid because something is going to probably pop up that somewhere down, as much as you've thought of everything, something's going to not be thought of, and you're going to have to change it on the fly, and all of a sudden, everybody's going to get up in arms type of deal, and it's like, patience is going to be the virtue word here to everybody, to just let this work out and get it up and running, which I know is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and my plan is, and I spoke to Dr. Gifford, I will send an informational letter out to parents breaking all of this down. We're still a little bit in the infant stage, but I must be honest with you, the plan I've shared with you is pretty much I mean, I feel pretty comfortable, meaning not comfortable, but, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see any alternatives with that being said. But parents will be, they'll receive an informational letter. I know we're discussing it this evening, but when, within a few weeks, they'll get an informational letter and pretty much outlining what steps we're going to take and et cetera, so.
Yeah, super job.
So my goal is really, at the end of the day, safe, equitable manner. That's been my mantra as we've progressed specifically over the past few weeks in preparing for the full reopening, is what can we do that's going to be safe for students, and safe meaning not only physically but mentally well-being, and what is equitable. And so that's whatever decisions we're making, those are the two things that we look at.
Good luck.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you
Doan.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your support. I greatly appreciate it, very much so.
No problem.
Have a good night.
Yeah, have a great night. Thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Next up on this evening's agenda and the presentations, district technology update. Dr. Gifford?
Mr. Galashaw is here
Oh,
to
right here, Mr. Galashaw.
wow us with everything that's been going on with technology this year. Another department that's been extremely busy.
Yes. Good evening, Mr.
evening.
Galashaw. Thank
How are
you
you?
for joining us this evening.
Yes. Hold this thought. Hold that thought. I can't have the direction in my ear from Mr. Parati.
No.
I miss it. It's like having Jiminy Cricket in my ear.
Doing double duty as the
Yeah, the
tech
floor
person and
director.
the floor director.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I just want to give you a brief update on technology. It's been a little while. So for the next 2 hours, we'll talk about technological things. And we'll talk about some of the things we're doing. So it's been a busy year. I haven't seen you people in this capacity since before the pandemic. And that hit hard. And then we got busy with all the technological advances that we had to do for the district. Some of the things I want to talk about tonight is hardware, some of the updates we've done in hardware. Done a lot of upgrades on presentation and smart boards, as well as software, online services, online learning, as Mr. Doan mentioned some from the middle schools doing. Also wanted to say that it was nice having him here for that purpose, to go a little more in depth of how technology is used in a school. I'm more of an aerial view right now. Security and safety, as well as servers and infrastructure, the internet, and the technology planning and evaluation. I promise these topics, they seem boring, they seem a little dry, but I make them really riveting, so we'll go through that. So hardware upgrades, we did a lot of hardware upgrades. We added about 250 new computers for the teachers. One of the upgrades we did for the teachers was giving them laptops that were substantial to be able to perform. Other districts I know were using Chromebooks for the teachers. It just doesn't perform at the level of a PC, one with a processor. So they were given computers. We also added many, many Chromebooks. Some are behind you. I was noticing they're behind you in the shot, Mr. Nunes, during the production. Those just came in. We'll be updating those. We're up to nearly 5,000 Chromebooks, and we do have a lot of repairs. We've had a lot of activity, a lot of the kids taking them back and forth, getting their use out of them. A lot of times a cable might jar loose, or a microphone might go bad. And we're able to either replace that cable or just reseed that cable so we can do the repairs. And the technicians have been, taking them home, and on the weekends we've been doing them everywhere we can. Also, through a grant that we acquired, thank you, Mr. Kiley, we've added a lot of these boards, some most larger than this one, to all the classrooms. And it's really something special to watch when you go to the elementary schools in particular. When the board came in, I was there when the class saw it for the first time, and this little class of fifth graders, they cheered. They actually cheered because it's very, very clear. And I also enjoyed watching it because the teachers have their command center at the front of the room, and it's really neat. They have multiple monitors, document cameras, all kinds of devices, and the children at home are on the screen. The children in the classroom are there. And I've been able to witness some great things in seeing the future of technology. I saw one example of a teacher that was quarantined, who was on the Meet, or Zoom is the Meet we use, with the class, and the monitor was in the classroom, and she was saying, "Mr. Nunes, are you paying attention?" So she was talking to her children from home during a quarantine, and I thought it was really neat how there was a whole dynamic going on, even from home. That was a great experience. We've also repurposed some of the old smart boards, the ones less than 10 years, and putting them in less critical areas like a math specialist room or some small room like that. And we're in the process of doing that now. And we still have some more upgrades to happen throughout the district. Software, we're constantly evaluating our software. It's a very expensive item in our budget. You know, there's a lot of the content we do with various software packages. So the instructional technology specialists are always looking at that to see if we utilize it to the best of its ability. And also we have many apps that go down from Google and Apple. And again, that's content that the students are using through their iPads or through the Chromebooks as they use. We have online services. A lot of the future of software is to place software online, so kids log into a service and use that product like we do with ST Math or other products that they do. And it allows for assessment, also practicing and support for the kids. And of course, the online learning that Mr. Doan had mentioned. We had done it at 3 levels this year, the high school doing Edgenuity, the middle school doing TECA, and the elementary schools doing a homegrown system of teachers within our district that were hired for the purpose of doing virtual learning. It was really great to see an array of those models because as we move into the future, it's given us the opportunity to assess which one will work for us in the future, because I believe that online learning, there'll be an element of that always now for the future. We will be discussing those online programs and see what we can pull from the best of those programs. Security and safety. We joined the Massachusetts Data Student Alliance. What they do is they signed data alliance agreements, privacy agreements with companies, and they make sure that our data is properly used and properly held. So it's a really nice way to have a clearinghouse of a company that goes through all this software and signs agreements with these companies that sell software. We're protecting our data. We're doing backups. And also through a neighboring district had suggested we sign up for a grant for cybersecurity. And we also were awarded that, where the teachers, there's an assessment involved of how we're doing our cybersecurity, as well as training for the teachers, which we are going to provide some PDP hour for. It's 1 hour. So. We've done upgrades on security cameras. High definition cameras, really, really keen. They see in so many places. We've done training for our security, both at the middle school and the high school. We've added security monitors at the elementary schools so they can watch that. We've also updated the recording devices that keep track of that for longer use and also quality film, so it takes up more space on a server. We've also given police access to these cameras, so hopefully you never have to use this, but they can go into the schools in the case of emergency and see around. They've done it when we had a break-in at one of the schools. The police were able to quickly assess the situation, and this was over the summer, and it was a really good thing. And also in communication, we've upgraded the phone servers. That was kind of a gift. We had one of our phone servers just die, and the warranty had expired on it. And then a month later, another one died. And here we are. Then the third one died. So I went after the company saying, no, 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 this is not me. So they replaced all of our servers. So cha-ching, we're good for that. It's good stuff. We have a server infrastructure. We've consolidated all of our servers, putting them in one place here at the high school in a climate control room in the high school. It also has a backup, battery backup, and incremental backups of data, both on-site and in the cloud. It's the best protection against ransomware because you need data backed up incrementally in different places, so in the event if something happens, you can retrieve it. We'll be increasing our bandwidth this summer. We increased it earlier this year to accommodate what we were doing, but now that all these services are going online, the kids are so use so many resources online, the need for bandwidth expansion is there. And we've done the upgrades that allow for even further expansion if we want to go that level and get it E-rated at a 50% discount. In the future, I'm going to take a look at redesigning the wide area network. We're connected through an old fiber network that connects all the buildings. But in the future, we're going to look at possibly putting out bandwidth connections from multiple buildings and split up our traffic in multiple directions. And of course, with technology planning and evaluation, an update needs to be done to the technology plan, which had no idea what just happened. And I've got to really get caught up and explain to the technology plan that we've jumped years beyond what we thought was happening. And also hopefully to reconvene the technology committee once we were able to get together and start doing that for next year. Some of the people behind the magic are the staff that we have. On the instructional side, we have a instructional technology specialist, invaluable, at the school levels. Sandy Chicka doing Potter, Trish Leary doing Quinn, Temple Mitchell doing the middle school, Jen Thomas at the high school, Liz Vosi at DeMello. That's in alphabetical order, in case you were wondering. That's not in favoritism or anything like that. That's alphabetical order for them. Also, we have a small stipend position for school-based tech supporters that are able to do the little stuff of getting cables and doing little fix-it things. Mr. Parati is one of those at the high school. Mr. Hellcamp is also at the high school. On the technical side, we have people like Chris Branco, who does integration, who works with the technology integration specialists on special projects. If they're ever doing something, Chris is a good liaison to them, being the technical side of that. Also deals with the servers and all the Active Directory and all the accounts. Tom is amazing, Tom Faraz, he's a fix-it guy that just is nonstop. He's got so many, we're trying to fix so many things. You'll see broken Chromebooks everywhere. He's fast, he's thorough, he's out of control, he's really amazing. And Jesse does all the security, the phones, the network. Hallie Larock does our data and website, and Tracy watches the office of all the processing we're doing there. So where do we go from here? What does the future hold? We've had a glimpse of educational technology, and it's exciting. I must say it's kind of selfish. I never thought I'd see in my career the leap that we've had to do in technology. So I've been appreciative of that. I know there's been a lot of you people have made the hard decisions about COVID and bringing kids in and keeping them safe. I have to admit, this has been a moment that is had a glimpse of the future. I think what's important is we look at things like online learning or the lessons we've learned from this process. I'm hoping when we come back that we return some humanity to the process from the technological. I know from a technologist you think that's surprising, but I think there is that part of we've made a massive leap forward and kids are plugged in. And I think if we look at the lessons we've learned from that, we can pull from that. Some of those lessons are that Google Chrome is here to stay. Google has supported that, and they'll be doing that. They have great tech features and services like Mr. Doan had mentioned, GoGuardian they use, also Google Classroom, Google Meet, things like that. It's a very inexpensive vehicle to deliver content for our information. And what's great is I've had the opportunity to visit teachers that have embraced these new methods and tried different ways of annotating and projecting. We have a math teacher, Stephanie Church. She showed me how she is able to take notes on an iPad and immediately take that annotation of those notes, and the kids get it right into their folder, so they're able to take the notes with them. So they spend a class time paying attention to the instruction rather than trying to write everything down. So it's a great thing that they focus on the content and not on trying to annotate. But I've watched that, and she said it's changed the way she's been teaching, and she'll never go back. And it's interesting. So these are the things we're pulling from this glimpse of the future. The ITSs are constantly evaluating the instructional tools, the methods, the resources. So we extract what we can, and they're able to train on some of the great programs that I know that Mr. Doan had mentioned about Jamboard and other products. And we're constantly evaluating software and services. One example of that is that we have a antivirus program on our computers. And I was talking to a district recently who was looking at a new antivirus program and the possibility that there could be a better product out there. So we're constantly looking at that. And also increased communication, not only in the technology plan, but also in a revamp of the website this summer. It's been the current website, so it's time to inject it with some exciting new stuff, and it grabs everyone's attention. So those people out there that are watching this broadcast, if you have suggestions or if anyone else does, it's always good to hear from it. In fact, we also involved some test groups because we want people to be able to look at a website and appreciate it and understand it. A lot of times in websites you can't find what you're looking for. You don't know, it doesn't follow a logical process. We're looking for that. So in closing, in a span of a work week, as I said, it's been a busy, busy year. I feel like this on Monday, like I can conquer the world. And by Friday, I feel like the world has conquered me. But it's good to have the weekend, and we're right back at it on Monday. But, you know, in technology, we're very tired, but it's a good tired. As I mentioned, this is our renaissance. This was something that I was so happy to see in my career time, to see what technology would be like in the future. And it's great to have that glimpse of the future. And as we come back, we pull some of those great things that happen, like online learning. Some kids, there's a lot of possibilities for online learning. Instruction, methods of instruction, as I mentioned, the teachers and what they're doing. Flexibility, where if someone can't be in class for whatever reason, they can still be in class. And same thing with teachers. So it's opened up possibilities for technology and instructional technology. Because, like I said, this is a good time because I've been charged with using the vehicle to deliver the proper content that Dartmouth wants to deliver to the students. And that vehicle is technology. And we've done what we can to do that. We have so much more to do, and that's what we'll do. And with that, I would like to wrap it up. Those are my references that I just went by there. But with that, I know that the evening is late, so I'd say, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Galashaw. I appreciate your humor that you inject into sometimes a very interesting subject. Just a couple of things. First of all, I'm thrilled that you were able to work with Mr. Kiley, and I don't know if it was ESSER funds or some of the other different grants that we were able to upgrade a number of our smart boards to the touch panels, and I know that the staff throughout the different schools that have received them are thrilled with the product. So I think that's wonderful. I also got to say, you know, this goes back to really a year ago, last spring, in which it was a complete madhouse in the district and districts across the Commonwealth as well as across the country, in which, you know, we had to scramble to get devices out, and you did it, and you accomplished that. And, you know, now we're a one-to-one district completely. And once again, I know through probably some grant money as well as through the town's capital improvement monies. So I think that's wonderful that we're able to be a one-to-one district, and it's just, as you know, and I don't need to tell you, but technology is constantly evolving, and we're coming to rely more and more on it on a daily basis, and on a daily, really on a class by class basis, for remote learning, for in-person instruction with document cameras, with remote learning with TECA, with all these different pieces. So, no, I thank you, and I thank your staff, Mr. Galashaw, and especially, I can remember when I first got on the committee, we were really pushing for instructional coaches, or the instructional technology coaches, or the integration specialists. I'm not sure what the term is here. But I'm really happy. I think they play a key role in the curriculum integration piece of the technology, infusing technology into the curriculum. So I think that's great. I brought this up last year. I'm going to bring it up again, and I'll bring it up next year. The expansion of technology across Dartmouth, across the Dartmouth Public Schools, and over 5,000 Chromebooks, in addition to everything touching the network, whether it be the telephone system, the HVAC system, the camera system, the security camera systems, Wi-Fi, printers, copiers, and so on. I really do believe that I think at the very least you're understaffed by at least one or two technicians. I think the district owes it to you and owes it to the instructional staff to make sure that we have the capacity to continue to support and service all these technology devices. So I just hope, I know we originally talked about putting it in the budget last year pre-COVID, that it was cut because of COVID, and it's just not feasible this year. But I really hope we're able to do something in the near future, because I think that the reality is that, if the internet's down for 10 minutes, we're in a big, it's a big problem with how we're relying on it, and not just the internet, but the touch panels, whatever it may be. So I really hope that we can have a conversation next year about at least getting you another person, because I think, I'm preaching to the choir, Mr. Galashaw, but as you know, if you look at the private sector, you look at the healthcare sector, it's certainly the ratios are completely different than where they're here in education, and I think that we need to really look at this to continue to support. The reality is that we need a lot. We rely heavily on technology. So, with that,
but one of the things I want to mention is that the instructional technology specialist, this doesn't happen. The technical staff, absolutely, they're going above and beyond. The instructional technology specialists, I've watched neighboring districts, just so watering at the mouth because they did not have such a thing. It was a remarkable insight by this district 2 or 3 years ago to expand that. If you should have told me to buy Apple stock then too, if you had that kind of insight. But it was a remarkable foresight that we could not have imagined this year happening the way it did. But they've been invaluable from instructional, teaching teachers how to use things, being right there on the spot in the building, one for every building. So they've been the liaison to me for the technology, which is remarkable.
No, agreed,
Yeah,
and that should, it's a very good point that we're very lucky to have the instructional technology specialists. So thank you, Mr. Galashaw. I'll start down with Mrs. Waite.
Oh. Again, just very impressive presentation. Thank you. I think it speaks volumes about, what your team is doing, but also, again, the staff, and in addition to the instructional specialists, I know that there are also teachers who got certified in Google Classroom themselves and, and took on, kind of informal roles within their departments. And I think you mentioned one, I know, like, Stephanie Church, for example, in math, I know she's done it, she's certified. So I think, again, the teamwork and, as someone who's, coming into it, I would see myself as being, you know, a little nervous. It's so great to have, you know, a colleague there that's, you know, patient and, you know, someone in the building that you can access. And, you know, the tremendous learning curve that these, you know, we think about how flexible and our staff have been. I mean, again, for people who are coming into this in the beginning not feeling as literate, the leaps and bounds they must have made, you know, just, you know, professionally now that they're so comfortable. I think it's, again, it speaks volumes to everyone's efforts this year. I guess, you know, one of the things I'd say, and you spoke to this, is we kind of talk about the future. You know, certainly this year, we've been dealing with extended absences and quarantining and everything else. I do think that this, you know, the one-to-one and synchronous learning and everything that we've learned as a district can really make a difference for those students who do have to stay home. Again, I'd love to see, you know, in the past, we've had an issue with absences, and it's so difficult as a classroom teacher when you have students coming in after a week to catch them up. You know, and there are students who are for surgery, and sometimes you're just sick and you can't be on.
Sure.
But I think it'd be great for those kids who, for whatever reason, you know, have to be out for an extended amount of time, that they can, you know, hopefully we can somehow bring back that, you know, or keep and maintain that synchronous learning for them within, you know, not having to send them off into a different platform, but maybe within their, you know, staying within their own teachers. I think it, you know, eases some burden for the teachers themselves, you know, not to have to, you know, have different students that they're trying to catch up. But I think it has a lot of opportunities for the future, so I think that's
Agreed.
important. So,
Agreed, yeah.
so again, I just am really grateful for, you know, I'm grateful for everything that's been done, you know, handing out the computers, and even lending the computers, you know, at one point, for town meeting. I mean,
Sure.
even some of these, you know, our computers were procured for those members. So it's really been a community-wide effort. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. White. Mr. News?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Galasha. As always, interesting and very informative. It's interesting, you were kind enough to get me a Chromebook because I don't own a laptop. And which I don't, and I, you know, before I got all hooked up with cameras at home and everything else, but, you know, got that, to have one of those to be able to do the Zoom meetings, and it worked out perfectly, and thank you for that. Even though every once in a while it would freeze, but that's nothing to do there. But, you know, a little follow-up on what the chairman talked about, you know, with the internet going down, and the other big problem, too, is the fact that every once in a while you'll see that Comcast in an area goes down and everybody is dead. You know, the students are trying to work and there's nothing they can do, but it is what it is. You know, we have a grandson who's in the 6th grade at the middle school, and I've seen him when he's had to be at our house type of deal with his book, and he, you know, his Chromebook, and he's doing his work and even participating in phys ed online, you know,
Wow.
type of deal. And,
Yeah.
you know, doing it. So it's really been a good year. And follow up a little bit with what Ms. Waite said, but do you see, like, online continuing in a sense that if you have a student that's home for an extended period of time because of, you know, sickness that, you know, maybe gets us away from, in the most part, needing like home tutors for these students, because now they'll have the Chromebook that they can, you know, log in from home and continue with their classwork as long as they're able to type of deal?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I had this conversation with the superintendent a week ago, and I think when I was building the presentation, and what part of it is that what this year has done for us is give us a glimpse of the possibilities. So now we have to redefine how we educate because there are more possibilities. And DESE has to also come to the table because they still sometimes try to report student data in ones and zeros. It's either on or off. It's binary, but it's such a gray area. This year we had virtually absent, virtually present. You know, it's unbelievable. The codes we had to do, and they're having to adjust because life isn't like that. It's such a gray area. But to your point, Mr. Newens, it's just that I think what's exciting is we got a flavor, a taste of what could happen, and now the experts in education have to say, okay, with this possibility, maybe we can accommodate that child who needs one class that's so unique to the building that they could take that class. I mean, we do things like dual enrollment. We do other things. So I think it's a taste of the future of education, complements of technology.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. Mrs. Amaral?
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. My colleagues have said a lot. One thing I will say that is so refreshing, just in the world, not in our district necessarily, because we've got a lot of these sort of people that kind of come to the table with this attitude, is that it is wonderful to see how excited you are about the work that you do within our district. And it sort of goes hand in hand with the obvious sort of successes that we've had in this area. I know my my fifth grader, her laptop, her Chromebook, didn't turn on, and I said to her, "We'll bring your," because we were fortunate, she has one as well, and I said, "We'll bring that one in for the day." She's like, "I can't do that. It has to be the district." She's a rule follower, man, that one. But and right away, boom, boom, boom. It's been worked on, and so. So responsive. I don't really have any technical questions. I can anticipate what my colleagues are going to ask, but I just really appreciate what you kind of bring to the table and how you've helped us get through this. Just wonderful, wonderful job.
I tried to move fast and because at a director's meeting a few weeks ago, I was trying to explain IP addresses to the crew, and I saw them gloss over, and the superintendent says, "At school committee, don't do that." We just did do the other thing. So I got to move fast and just do the highlights, and there's so much more to talk about. It's so exciting, but I only can give you the quick ones.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm all done.
So I just also want to say thank you for all your hard work and all your staff's hard work. I do want to say, and this is particularly more for our audience at home, right? That I think a lot of people think that, moving from teaching face-to-face and online is just, okay, I move from standing in front of a classroom and talking to people, and now I move and I talk to a camera. And it's just so much more than that. As a teacher who's taught online, who, has taught face-to-face, teaching online has really actually made me a much better teacher in a face-to-face, because to your point, we learn things and it makes us think really deeply about our teaching and what we're trying to accomplish. That having been said, I am a little bit more skeptical about the future about this, because it's not just someone zooming in. It's not just someone going into the Google Meet, right? Using technology in an integrated way in your teaching is really carefully planned and deeply integrated. That makes it difficult that when you have 5 people or 10 people in another room, you're thinking about how am I going to gauge them and what are you going to do. When you have one, it really makes it a lot more difficult to do that, to gauge that person. And so I'm somewhat skeptical. I do think there's possibilities for a class, right? When we have a class that we need.
Right.
But I do think when we have long-term absences, it's not just going to be, you can just zoom in and it's going to be exactly the same, because it's not. Because that's not really what using technology to teach is. It's not simply a camera. It's a lot more than that. And so I deeply appreciated your presentation, but I also thought it might make sense for us sometime to have maybe some of the instructional technologists to come in and do a presentation and to talk about all the different, softwares and tools they work with and how they work with teachers. I think they did that maybe a few years ago, but maybe it might be another time to do it again. Probably not until the fall, till we're, beyond this, maybe, But I think it would really help the general public and our viewing audience to understand, what do we mean when we mean teaching with technology? Because again, I think a lot of people, based on their own experience, think of it as, chalk and talk, but it's not chalk and talk anymore. And so I think they really need to be taught what it means to teach with technology. So I'd love to see people come in to share that with us, because I think it would be really enlightening for us. I mean, I would probably learn some things as a teacher from our teachers. I'm super excited. I share with you that I think that everyone coming out of this pandemic, preschool all the way up through higher ed, we're all going to be different teachers as a result of this, because this has made us think very deeply about how we teach. Not that we don't all the time, but it really gets it to the nuts and bolts, I think. But I think it would be good for our viewers to really sort of open that up to see how much hard work this has been for everyone. So I thank you for all the help that you've done in supporting us to make that transition. And I'm excited too about, what we'll see moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Once again, thank you, Mr. Galashaw, for
Chair.
your thoughtful presentation. Mr. Nunes?
One quick question, just curious, in that when the pandemic hit and COVID and everything, how many Chromebooks have we purchased in the past year, roughly?
Yeah, that 1,000, pretty much, I would say, since the pandemic,
Yeah,
yeah, probably about 1,500.
okay.
So we have 5,000, not quite 5,000. I like to brag about 5,000. We're below that. We're going to get to that number, yeah. But a lot of them, yeah, and we were fortunate enough, Mr. Kiley helped us. We bought 700 of them right when the pandemic hit, and everybody else and all my counterparts were waiting. And I think we'd seen a picture we put on the website because we got them, and we put them all together in the summer and handed them out.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we've had a lot. So, and we're getting quite skilled at fixing them. Some of them simple, some interesting. What happened? It's a banana.
I was gonna say, you had a
Banana
banana,
was a good one, yeah.
Squinched in one.
Banana squished in the middle of it. So, but anyway, yes, about 1,500 of the 5,000, almost 5,000.
I was curious, thank you, sir.
Please share our congratulations and our thank yous to the rest of your team.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you can take on your other role, back to the
Yeah,
floor.
get back to floor director. Yeah, get back there.
So I'm running that teleprompter.
That's right.
Next up, under old business, FY22 budget discussion. We'll continue on the FY22 budget, and I don't know if I'll turn it over to Dr. Gifford first, or
Yeah, I
I know
guess-
there's a couple of little
tweaks
that you
and
have.
discussion, right.
Yes.
So, I know, obviously, Mr. Kiley knows all the numbers and the grants and what's coming in and out and all of that. And he did send you a memo with based on with our discussion, how we're planning on moving the position of the social worker into some of the grant money coming in and helping the town with their budget. But we decided with that we were getting all of this additional money, and again, he'll speak to that. Based on what we see as the need, we would want to increase that to a 2.5 social worker, so one more social worker. As you remember, the middle school and high school both asked for one, and we were planning on sharing. And our reading specialist as well, that was in our Quinn, it was a replacement from a position that we did not replace yet. We were putting it back in the operational budget, but if we can use that money, because it's for closing gaps, et cetera, to move that out and into that, knowing that we would want to put those, and how things go over the next couple of years, put those back in the operational budget. But again, those are just really the big things that we wanted to mention to you. Along with that, we supplied you with the what we created as assistant superintendent job description based on our just previous discussion, trying to put together all of the tasks that for the two positions that we're combining with that. So you have that, and I do want to turn it over to Mr. Kiley to speak to the money and the grants and all of that, because that's his forte.
Thank you, Dr. Gifford. So, as Dr. Gifford explained, the 1.5 social worker positions that we increased and included in our FY22 budget proposal, were important, and I think it showed our commitment to social and emotional well-being of students. And, we always wanted to do more than that. I know there was some comments at previous school committee meeting about trying to do more than that, and we've fortunately, I think, have the ability to. So we, with the action of Congress and the federal government, will have additional funding heading our way. We don't know, no one knows a lot about it yet. There's been no official guidance yet. But it's going to be significant, and it is going to be available to us through fiscal year '24. So when you hear that, it starts, I would hate to fund a salaried position for a year and then not have the funding the following year. But when you start thinking about 3 years of potential funding source being available, it starts to be more reasonable line of discussion to fund these positions. So what we do know about those funds is that they are going to be tied to learning loss and to other impacts of the pandemic. So very clearly, when where the positions that we were talking about were reading specialists and social outreach workers, absolutely they will be able to be funded through that. The fact that we have that additional money, it really made sense for us to try and support the high school students and middle school students with a full FTE at both of those. So this proposal tonight actually increases the support to the schools. It also decreases the request for the operating budget by $158,117, or 0.34%, which gets our budget request at about a 3.5% increase for next year from FY21. With your support, we'll begin to move forward with that, and that's what we're asking for. Certainly, it's up for discussion, and we'd love to know what you think about that. But we think that is a way we can support kids, and also try and be good partners with the town side of government, and hopefully present a budget that has a pretty good shot of being approved at town meeting.
Well, thank you for your presentation, for your update, Mr. Kiley. I'll open it up to questions on the floor to my colleagues. Dr. Jenkins?
So this sort of relates to my question to Mr. Doan earlier, and I'd love to see, particularly in terms of after-school support, enrichment, even a week before, but us being creative about how we ramp kids up and provide them the support they need. Mr. Jones said, there's a cost to doing that. Well, that seems to me that sort of federal funding would be good for those sorts of things. Any sort of extra support we can give to kids outside of school time, because we are going to have to make stuff up, I think would be really great. I am hesitant to say, okay, you've had a really traumatic year and now let's pour additional school time on you, after school. I don't think that's what kids need. So I would love to see the feds be a little creative in thinking and how we think about this, even particularly for our younger kids, doing some more social things after school that we pay for, I think would be good for them developmentally. And might, even if we can just get them together, in a gym to do fun physical things that can help with some of those social things that they're missing out on this year developmentally, but not add to sort of school and academic fatigue. So I'd love to see us be really creative about creating some after-school activities around this. And then I would say my other concern is, just looking out. I think the town has been a good partner to us, and they've done, I think, a good job in sort of building room in their budget to build towards things, right? Whether it be saving for the library or saving up a little capacity every year to add a position. It doesn't seem to me that we've been able to do that in a similar sort of way, and I'm thinking about the technologist, right? That every year it's right below the line. But if we could say, all right, we're going to request this much less this year and this much less next year and this much, that they add up over, the 3 years that we've rejected that thing that's right below the line. It would be nice to be able to see us to get there, to have sort of a multi-year budget process whereby we say, look, ideally we'd like to build up some reserve. It's probably not going to be in our budget, maybe it's in their budget, but where we build to some of these positions that are super important, but when you put, a technologist up against a social worker, the social worker works every time,
It's hard.
kind of wins every time. And so the technologist often just falls right under that line every single year. So I'd love to see us get to a place where we can do multi-year planning Again, I know that we're going to have to go through the process of looking at the needs in buildings, but also to build up to some of those positions that might not, that are actually a high priority, but don't seem like it, if that makes
Right.
sense. Because I think that's how we're going to have to get there with a technologist, right? Is to set aside a little every year until we build up to,
Right.
you know what I mean, towards that
Yeah.
salary.
Yep.
No, I agree. Thank you, Dr. Gifford, Dr. Gifford, Dr. Jenkins.
It's getting late, I know.
We go by any, we'll answer to anything.
Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is great that, we've got some federal funds, and as, Mr. Kiley said, it's, not a 1 year, if you think about it, it's a 3-year process. It's a 3-year grant, so, which is good. And I totally understand, and I appreciate everything that the town has done for us every year and continues to do for us, whether it's in the operating budget or it's the capital improvement budget and capital items and things of that nature that we need. I mean, we've been able to tap into all that COVID money that has done tremendous with air filters and Chromebooks and the like, PPE equipment and such. What I'm just wondering is, instead of taking, we're being good sports and we're reducing it 158,000 or some odd, 158,000 type of deal. I'm just wondering if we took a little bit of that savings, and in all seriousness, to answer Mr. Oliver's, and help Mr. Galashaw out and go get that technician. See if we can get that technician to help us out. I mean, again, if the budget is, and I don't know what the cost would be, okay, and I won't put a number on it, but, we're still gonna, per se, submit a little bit smaller budget increase than we originally have been talking about, and that, but it takes one of the items that we need, and we know we've got that person, for 3 years anyway, because we've got the grant for 3 years that's taking care of everything else. And possibly, if there's an issue, maybe we've got the grant money that takes care of that person, if God forbid the budget falls apart. So I'm just, my thoughts, I throw that out there.
Well, I think to your point, again, once we kind of really have a good handle on what that number is, if it's as significant as, and the parameters that they're setting, where we need to spend it, there might be other spots. I'll just, as a suggestion, for example, some of the schools ask for special education, extra special education teacher. If we determine down the line that we have significant funds coming in and we can use it for those kinds of things, if we have the budget number set, but yet can make those adjustments in and out of that, operational budget, it's kind of to your point, Mr. Nunes, that can we get something else
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
operations that, when we can cover other things in the grants?
Under the grant.
I
Yeah,
think,
I'm just
I don't know.
kind of thinking out of the box a
Right,
little bit.
right.
And, with
I
all
mean,
due
'cause we are-
respect, it's
yeah.
federal funds. We can, in listening to the conversation about it being, educational related.
Right.
I think we can sit here and say with 5,000 Chromebooks.
I agree.
And all the
Agreed.
infrastructure that we have in place for computers.
Yep.
And I'm the last one to talk about computers, but I think we can justify the technician educationally wise to,
Right, and I mean, the other
help
thing
out in
we're
that
concerned, the other thing we're concerned about too, which we'll be watching very closely, is the class size numbers as far as, we're watching that K and 1, because we're not sure how many parents held students back from K. Will our K classes explode, or will they just move them to 1? So I'm very pleased that we have, hopefully, this kind of money that will help us in the unknown that
Yeah.
might be coming up.
that's my 2 cents, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. Mrs. Waite?
Yeah, so if I could just, piggyback on, what Dr. Jenkins was saying as well, when I think about the students who are coming in and, again, looking at the lens of my own family too, I think that we're going to have some students who really, coming in as, they've lost that freshman year, they're going to come in as sophomores.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't lose it, but they lost the ability to mature in the normal fashion, especially, I'm reading, and again, from middle school parents and, some high school parents where their children are having difficulty with their executive functioning. So it's not necessarily that they're having difficulty with a particular subject. It's just managing it all, especially in this context, and they're getting further and further behind. And so I think, I don't know, that's not, a place for an outreach social worker, they're not on necessarily on a special education plan, but I think that from what I've read, there are a number of parents are feeling like, again, their children have gotten behind, they're frustrated, they don't fully know how to navigate through all of what Google Classroom has to offer, which is quite a lot, it does. But, that is, I think, those students are coming in with a lower self-esteem and confidence, and again, it's not necessarily they've lost out on social, it's just that they felt so frustrated, and it isn't reflective of their abilities. So, again, I don't know, this is a gap, and this is going to be an issue that, we could target, and again, I don't know if there are, again, special coaches or something, but I think you're going to find that there's going to be quite a few, say, like, less mature sophomores, and again, and now they're coming into the building and they're trying to navigate everything, really with the full complement of students, and it's, seventh graders and, those transition years. So it's just something that, I've seen come up in conversations with, friends and, in my own world. So just, that's a 2 cents.
Anyone else?
I will just kind of echo that too, that that's something that's of huge concern is, the students that are, we don't know what they're going to come in. We know, we don't know. And perhaps taking, a stance as a district where it's sort of like the benefit of the doubt for those students who have had significant loss. Then I also think about those students who are in special education and the significant loss and all of the nuances that go into legality of the education plans. I would hate to see that loss translate into, say, a reason to take a child out of an inclusive classroom and put them in a substantial separate, placement. I would hate to see that happen. And but all of our kids are going to come in at some loss, and so hopefully there's some more definition around how those funds can be utilized, and I have all the faith that we as a district will be creative and really hit that head on and come up with some sort of plan that, like to Shannon's point, not throwing a lot of like learning at them, but making it fun and making it creative, perhaps a little bit of, I mentioned this last meeting, building capacity within our summer programming, but with the education, but the socialization, bringing humanity back into it. I don't know if it was Jonathan that said that, or and so that we're going to need that because as much as it's so confusing, and we've told kids that social media wasn't good and engaging on computers isn't good, all these hours online, and now they're online all this time. And my own instructional practice and the work that I do has changed because I'm utilizing a lot of this technology in the ways that I teach families, and so it's our whole society. But I have faith that we're going to do it. We're going to do it to the best of our ability, and we're going to examine our practices and reframe what we do. We're going to kind of shuffle and slide and be flexible, and getting back in the classroom and having your kiddo with equity in mind, going into the gym to learn instead of being home and learning. That's not the end of the story. We all know that, and there's going to be a lot of things that are come our way, and we don't know what that's going to look like yet. So we just got to buckle up, be kind to one another, and have a little grace in the way that we kind of interact with one another. So I thank everyone. I applaud everything that you've been doing. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty darn good with what we can work with. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerman. Dr. Jenkins?
I just want to follow up a little bit to tie into what Mr. Noon said in my thought about longer-term budget planning. This is 3 years of revenue, but it is non-recurring revenue, right? And so I have deep concerns, particularly given this town's fiscal capacity, of us building anything more recurring into this federal grant. And that's why I was talking about like maybe a summer school or after school, because it's not a hired person. It's maybe a stipend to do something after that we can say, all right, we're not going to be able to do that in 3 years. I know you agree with this, and maybe I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, saying like, oh, we need to hire these people, but
Right.
we do. But I don't want to pile too many things on this, particularly hiring onto this money. And if we do start to hire, we need to do the long-term budget cycle, or 3 years from now, we're going to find ourselves in a bad place. So we've got to, I think, tread lightly. We need to take advantage of this funding, but we cannot put ourselves in, maybe it'll just be Mr. Nunes who's still here in 3 years. I don't know. Mr. Nunes is always here, right? We'll let him deal with that. In a good way, Mr. Nunes, in a good way. But I do worry about setting us up
Right.
for a
You'll
fiscal
still be here in
cliff.
3
If we either don't work with the town to get to where we need to be in 3 years, or if we build anything more than this that is beyond that 3-year plan.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's tricky.
Excellent points to
Tricky.
all my colleagues. If we could just touch base a little bit, Dr. Gifford. In regards to the new assistant superintendent of director of teaching and learning
Yeah.
restructuring, can we just talk a little bit about, because obviously a position is being cut if the assistant superintendent position is being created. So what do you see as far as what pieces or what parts of the job description are missing, or, because ultimately, you know, at the end of the day, it would be one that we know we can't in this budget cycle, but at the end of the day, you know, what do you see being dropped?
Well, to be honest, it's not a matter of things actually being dropped. It's right now, it's just a ton more. I mean, you're putting together two really critical roles, as you know.
Right.
So it's just the extra that we've all shared, but the bulk of it is on this position. The bulk of all of those things have been picked up by our current director, Tracy, of course.
Split amongst other administrators.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Kylie and I have taken on a few things, but, you know, the workload has just, and we're all there, we've all increased our workload, but I just think that we can have two very, very critical positions combined into one with no kind of movement at all is one thing not fair to anyone. And the number of hours, and that I think it needs to have some kind of recognition, if you will, and the compensation that we suggested, which was, I can't remember, 10,000 or something. I
Yeah,
think. No,
it's less than that.
We've talked
but
so
yeah.
much about
Sure.
this at all.
Because
yeah.
obviously, ideally, down the road, it, you know, would be wonderful to have both positions, but
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there right
Right.
now.
Right.
Okay. That's really
Yeah.
all I have right
Yeah.
now. My head's spinning
Oh, no, I know.
with just everything. So, anyone else?
I couldn't really hear you. Was your because I was wondering too, and I don't want to, if it is your question, then I apologize. Because I heard you say something would be lost, and it would be unfair to say that combining two positions, that not everything is getting in there. I'm wondering specifically around that teaching and learning piece.
Yep.
What is being sort of, I don't want to say lost, but sacrificed, if you will, to combine it? Is that what you asked? If it is, I don't want you to ask you again.
Kind of.
One
Yeah.
thing I'll say, and I didn't bring that, remember that list we
Yep.
brought that had all the colors, and I had a pile
Yes,
for you to
yeah.
just remind you of those things, so we could talk about a little bit more specific, because it's hard to capture in obviously any job description of what's going on. But one thing I will say, this encompasses pretty much what Michelle did and what Tracy does and has added to her plate. The things that maybe you're saying are missing, I can say, we've picked up. So like the policy, you know how Michelle always ran the policy discussion, which isn't a huge role. We don't meet that often, and there aren't, thank goodness, that many policy. Jim's going to be doing that. I'm doing a lot of the residency now, with the residency officer, with the consults with that. I actually have a hearing tomorrow to do. Those were in Michelle's corner too. So nothing's not being done. It's just the few things that aren't in here, and we've picked up. And
Does
like
it-
sick bank, we made Mr. Galasher go to the sick bank.
Sure.
We gave him, and we gave, the special education department a couple of things, a couple of different things, like the pre-K, overseeing the pre-K, registration. Of course, it's an integrated program, so we gave Ms. Townsend that, but Michelle always did that.
Sure.
So that's,
But there is also the point that Ms. Roy did have a secretary or administrative assistant that now is working
She still did, right.
working underneath you, I
right
believe,
now, yeah,
right?
yep. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so all that work is just still being done.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it sounds like more of, say, the assistant superintendent tasks are, so the curriculum and the instruction piece is really the meat of, and then the other additional, I mean, I have
Right.
it in front of me, but,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
So I just have a question. So when you have, when we have a role that's created like this, and again, I'm just kind of going back through like history because I'm, clearly new. Is this something that traditionally we need, because we are creating a new position, and I know we have, Tracy's doing an excellent job, in her role. And it seems to me like the thought is to elevate her
Yeah.
to, yeah. But is that something, because it is specifically an assistant superintendent, that we have a responsibility to post publicly? Can it be an internal appointment? I guess that's what I'm kind of, because it seems, I just went through, my children were sick, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm going back through the minutes, and, Mr. Oliver, our lovely chair here, had said that, again, it is our role to, with your advice, to post that, approve that person or appoint that person. So I guess I'm wondering, what is our due diligence? Do we need to have that, as a public, out of district posting or an internal posting, and then go through an interview process? What is the, what is our, what is the process for that historically?
There's no requirement to post a job at
Okay.
all. If we choose to choose someone from internal, no, there's no requirement or anything.
Okay.
Except obviously a union position. So we would post a union position.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, everyone, for that.
Thank you.
Public comment.
Update.
Did you have a question?
No, I didn't know if we were gonna, oh, never
Do we
mind.
want to reopen?
Yeah.
public
Yeah,
comment?
I'm coming back. I'm just going back to my agenda.
Yeah. I got it
let's
at
see.
the end.
It's been a long day, my apologies. So, yeah, we'll,
I don't remember the last time we had 3 meetings.
so essentially, we made a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn. Do we need to make a motion to,
Reconvene.
Reconvene?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we reconvene the public, school budget public hearing for FY '22.
Second.
motion by Mr. Noon, second by Dr. Jenkins. On the motion, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The public budget hearing is back in full effect. Ms. Genther, have you received any other, or any comments in regards to the public budget hearing?
I have not.
Okay, so, that is good.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to close the public budget hearing.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Jenkins, second by Mr. Nunes. On the motion, any other discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The public budget hearing is officially closed for the FY '22 budget. Next up, superintendent's update, Dr. Gifford.
All right, just a couple of quick things. Obviously, I'm so happy we have a high school person coming to report on some of the things I had listed here, but we've had great news from the Quinn PTO, that this was sent out, that they're going to be providing each classroom with some funds to do some virtual field trips. So, we've done some of those before, so it's nice that they're paying for some of the things, the cultural field trips, cultural programs, and some resources. So that was good news from Quinn. I'm sure the other PTOs are doing the same, but at least we had that. The fifth grade band and strings instructions are starting. They'll be starting up, so Mr. Flint let me know about that. It'll be fifth grade instrumental program. Will starting in April.
Wonderful.
And it's planning on 6 weeks of instruction for the band and orchestra on Wednesday and Thursday nights at the middle school. So I'm sure they're in contact with the kiddos that are going to be working with that, joining that. Of course, all social distancing is in place. I know I just want to reemphasize the 21 for 21 at the high school, all the events that are
That's
happening.
wonderful. Saw
Starting,
that.
as you
That is
heard,
awesome.
with
That's
Mr.
awesome.
It's not
That
Mr.
is really
Dartmouth
great.
anymore, it's Dartmouth's finest now, so.
Yep.
Starting on that, and we are, that it's really, really great, the work that they're putting in to make some fun things happen for the kiddos. We had the 2 football games with some spectators, so that went well. And also, just a shout out to DCTV. And I know Mr. Parati helps out and all with the recordings. I checked into one of the football games, and it was really, really great. And, everybody's just been fantastic for that. Speaking of Mr. Parati's class, he had some students create some podcasts for NPR, has a contest going, and students, if they win, will be able to appear on some of their shows, the Morning Edition and the All Things Considered. So we'll see.
What was that on? I'm sorry.
The kids have created some podcasts, and they're submitting them for a competition into NPR.
Oh, NPR?
So we'll
National
see,
Public Radio.
yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
But it gave them some inspiration to
Nice.
make their podcasts even better. So, it's always good. Let's see if there was anything else. Jim is going to talk about the CIP, and just before we move over to him, just to let you know, we stopped by the schools today, because of course we had the pre-K 1 come in. Everybody was happy. Things went well. We had no major problems, so we put some pictures up on our Facebook page, just showing, the classroom's pretty full, but all the kids well-behaved, doing their thing, and
That's awesome.
so that was a good day. It was a good day. But you want to talk about the,
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Gifford.
Yes.
So, we had a capital improvement planning committee meeting. Normally, we meet in like January, so this is our first meeting. And I would say that they were very supportive and very open to our requests. We have, you might remember, we have 10 items on our list. None individually of, huge dollar amount, but $1.8 million worth of requests cumulatively. And I feel confident that they're going to be supportive of a good number of those. So I'm encouraged definitely by the discussion there. And obviously, the Finance Committee needs to also, take a look at that, but after CIP endorses it. But it was a good discussion, so very positive. And the only other thing I have is that speaking of the Finance Committee, they have asked Dr. Gifford and I to attend Thursday night to discuss our budget. So we're prepared to,
prepared to do that.
I think, Zoom.
What time is that at?
I don't know. Don't
Okay.
have the invite yet. I'm somewhere between 6 and 7-ish
Okay.
range, but I'll have more specifics.
Sure,
We'll
let me
share with
know
all.
if I can attend.
We
I'll
can
be
share
there
with you
if anyone
folks.
else.
I'm assuming that'll be a Zoom meeting?
Yes, it will.
Just get the link.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can send the link around once we get it.
Excellent.
It just feels like we don't have as much, I don't know, I always say at budget time, I always get kind of excited to think about the ways we can reuse our money and reallocate things into better programs, and we've had a lot to talk about at the different FinCon meetings in the previous years, but this year it's just kind of like, we'll just, it just feels, it is, it's so different,
Right.
Not being able to say, oh, we need this, let's try to manipulate that, and anyway, just
right.
trying to hold the fort now.
Absolutely. Anything else right now?
No, nope.
No, thank you both for that update. Proposed meeting dates,
Yep.
is that in the packet?
It
or
was
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
one- Yep.
Yeah.
one of the emails?
It came just
Yeah,
after
it came
the
late.
main one, so you might see it.
Okay.
We're looking at, well, the first one, April 5th would be our short meeting, followed by the joint meeting,
Yep.
which we have, so we would want to start at 5:30. Hopefully, I guess, have a vote on the budget, and I believe that will be reorg time, if I'm not mistaken. No, not that early?
When's the,
The election is the Tuesday,
Yeah.
Okay,
so
it'd
we'll
be-
reorg the
Okay.
26th.
all right. And then we planned a meeting, if you don't have it in front of you, the 26th.
I'm
we-
assuming, and I'm assuming those will be Zoom, because they're not meeting in
The,
person.
the 5th, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then moving on, we're suggesting May 17th, because we have Memorial Day in there, and June 7th, and then June 21st, noting that June 17th is the last day of school. So if we have no more snow days.
There we go.
My only concern about that is the one meeting date in May, particularly as we're rolling everyone into school in April. If any, I mean, I'm confident that you guys have it handled,
Yep.
but I think we have a meeting before the middle school rolls in, if I have my dates right,
No.
right there, the 28th, and then we don't meet till
Yep.
2.5 weeks after that. I'm not sure that we need a meeting, but maybe we could all just, like, leave the 3rd open in case anything comes up and that we need to, I'm talking about us.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need to schedule a meeting, but it might be good if we all left that Monday night open.
the 3rd
In
of
case
May?
something-
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah, I think we didn't schedule it, obviously, just because it was the week right after.
Right.
but-
Yeah.
That's fine.
And then had the holiday in there, so it was
I
kind
mean,
of
that's,
hard.
I don't
Yeah,
think we
I'm-
need it, I just want to,
Yeah, I'm not available the 10th.
okay, so maybe we could all just put a marker on the 3rd, just in case we need something, if anything comes up with the roll-in or any of that sort of stuff.
I don't expect.
Dr. Gifford, have you heard anything around the high school, and whether DESI has any indications about the high school?
Nothing yet. The only thing we were told, which actually we have a commissioner meeting tomorrow, was we would find out in April and we'd have a 2-week notice. But we're planning, I mean, we're planning. We're not waiting for that moment in time, but
Oh, yeah,
it'll be
yeah.
interesting to see what the deadline is.
My goodness, they'll be back for 3 weeks
We'll
as
see.
seniors.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right.
Their final day is the 28th, so.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of testing coming up. We were talking about that in our central office meeting today, between the different MCAS, did I say the bad word? AP tests, we have the biliteracy tests, which quite a large number of students are taking that, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of strategy, a lot of manipulating schedules, and so another thing that Mr. Galasho has been doing is working with the high school on all of that so that they have the technology available, et cetera. So, anyway.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
2 quick questions. On the scheduled dates,
My calendar.
Monday, June 21st, do we want to look at possibly starting that meeting at 4:30, since school is out?
It'd be fine with us.
June 21st, you said?
Yeah, the June 21st meeting?
Sure.
I
Unless,
can't start till 5 o'clock.
okay.
I have work. I'm on the clock now. I don't get out until 4:30.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Sorry, I can't start
No,
at
I mean-
4:30, yeah.
But instead of starting at 6:30.
That's fine. If we start at
A
5
little
o'clock,
earlier?
that would work for me.
Yeah.
5:30?
I don't get out of
That
work till
helps.
4:30, so I can't be here at 4:30.
Yeah.
So 5 on the 21st?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. That's it.
All right.
And one other question I have, just in regards to all the students coming back to school, the fearless leader in DESI made mention of the fact that students have to be in class, there's no more hybrid, there's no more remote. What do we do with parents, with students, that the parents are saying, I want my student, they've been on remote all year and I want them on remote? Are they going to be able to stay remote and still get credit for the year?
Yes,
Okay,
that's, yes.
okay.
As a follow-up to Mr. Nunes' question, I know that survey was sent out a couple of weeks ago regarding, what parents would want to do.
Yeah.
Could you share with us maybe at the, I'm
I
just
can.
curious about the data on that
Yeah, and we're
survey.
not sure about that data. It seems, it just didn't seem like it makes sense to us, but
Okay.
we'll, yeah.
I'd
So
like
that's
to-
why, at least at the high school, one of the things we are doing is reaching out personally to the
Mm-hmm.
Edgenuity kids, offering them to come into the building. You know, they really can't switch curriculum. It'd be impossible.
Sure,
But
yeah,
to have
it
access to
just
the building. So that's one.
doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
one strategy. And, Mr. Doan has already, fielded a couple of questions about what they can do that are people, but and I think we had a couple at the elementary level, a couple of families that asked to come back. They've been, which is easier because they've been on our curriculum. They're being taught. And their reason really was they had to worry about childcare issues. It was inconsistent with the, if they came in hybrid. So now that we're coming in full-time, they can swing that. So it hasn't been a huge outcry of people reaching out to the principals about who they want to switch. I don't foresee it. So that's why the data doesn't look right. So we were trying to figure it out, say, did we not ask the right question? But we think we did, so we'll see. Yeah. But, yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gifford.
You're welcome.
As for the report of the chair, just really quickly, I just want to take this opportunity. I know out there sometimes in the public, some people choose to share their thoughts and their opinions, and they really don't have the opportunity, or they don't take the time to watch the school committee meetings
Right.
and really educate themselves as to what's going on. But let's make no mistake about it. There's been planning from day one in the Dartmouth Public
course.
Schools. And Dr. Gifford and Mr. Kiley and the rest of the central office team and all the administration has done their due diligence, and we're constantly talking on on a weekly basis. And let's remember that at the very least, Dartmouth schools, we've been in every other day for in-person learning, and there's other districts that they go a week at a time without direct instruction that are local. So I think Dartmouth is doing a tremendous job.
I agree.
I think we are in front of some of the other local districts, and I'm not going to name any, but it's frustrating sometimes, as we all know,
It is.
to hear in different media reports or different stories that people are saying otherwise. But if people really take the time to listen to us and listen to what goes on at these school committee meetings, and what Dr. Gifford and her office is putting out for correspondence to families, that I think at the end of the day, I think first and foremost, this district and the school committee is number one is safety for our students and for our faculty, followed by the best education that we can deliver them.
I agree.
I thank you, Dr. Gifford, and I just want to set the record straight that right from day one, this district has been very diligent with planning and doing the best we can with what we're given. And let's remember that back in August, that the State Department of Education and the Governor's Office left this to local control, to our own devices, to every single community in the state to do what they wanted to do, what was deemed, what they felt best for their district. And now they chose to go in the opposite direction and force our hands. And that's really for those hundreds of thousands of students that have not stepped foot
Yes.
into a classroom to date. So no, I'm pleased with
I
what
am.
we've done in the
Very
Dartmouth
pleased.
Public
Yep,
Schools,
we're
and I
very
I
proud
thought
of
that
how
was
we handled
important
it.
to
I mean, you
to just
If
put
you
that
think
out
about
there.
it, they sat here and they said that, back in August, they wanted, 3
Yeah.
different ways of bringing students back type of deal. They didn't even look at them. And then, at the 11th hour, they said, we're going to change from 180 to 170. And those 10 days, the teachers are going to be in, so you can learn how to
Right.
do the hybrid and remote and everything. It's, been a total disaster, but our administration and faculty have stepped up to the plate and done yeoman work, and it's much appreciated.
Yeah, 100%.
So complex.
So with that,
I agree.
yes, Dr. Jenkins.
So I just have one thing. We didn't have a spelling bee this year because of
Oh,
COVID, but
that's right.
COVID has not ruined the grant application cycle
That's
for the
right.
Dartmouth Education Foundation. So if any of our teachers are watching, the grant application is open. It's dartmoutheducationfoundation.org. Grants are due April 30th, and so we encourage people, Ms. Waite is also on the DEF board, and we encourage our teachers to apply. Hopefully we'll be in person to use some of the things that
Right.
we have been purchasing in our grant cycles.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Just a reminder, on April 5th, the joint session with the Select Board and Finance Committee will be held via Zoom at 6:30. And also, our next meeting of the regularly scheduled meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee is scheduled also for Monday, April 5th, and that's at 5:30, also via Zoom. And we're hoping to take the vote on the proposed FY22 budget at that time. Am I missing anything else? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Noon, second by Mrs. Amaral. On the motion, any further discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Meeting is adjourned.
Yes, happy Easter.
So I started getting texts.
I don't remember.